tensions remain high in the Middle East this morning after days of escalating strikes between the United States and Iran. U.S. military officials say that they hit about 170 targets across Iran during the renewed attacks this week. Tehran's response then reverberated through the Gulf, firing at U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. Jordan also said yesterday that it intercepted Iranian attacks. Despite the back-and-forth hostilities and President Trump declaring that the ceasefire is over, a U.S. official tells MS Now that the U.S. will continue, quote, technical talks with Iran and remains committed to finding a resolution. That official added that Iran's recent actions amount to failed performance at an unacceptable level when it comes to complying with the Memorandum of Understanding, but that discussions will continue as the administration remains dedicated to diplomacy. Joining us now is retired CIA officer Mark Polymeropoulos. He's an MS Now national security and intelligence analyst. And I also should correct my mistake. It is not July 17th. It is July 10th. I am a week ahead of schedule.
By the way, it's my son's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday to your son. All right. Mark, there's a lot going on this week, but the U.S. says that talks are continuing. I was told yesterday, though, by a White House official that that memorandum of understanding, we should essentially consider it moot, totally dead. Basically, if it was a sheet of paper in front of us, ripped apart. Do you think that any progress can actually be made during this now flare-up in hostilities that has caused this, agreement that was already weak at the outset to deteriorate?
So, Jackie, I think we're kind of in this period in which I would call it a hot piece. You're going to see this kind of tit-for-tat exchanges because, and the White House official who you talked to was essentially correct. I mean, the MOU is dead, but it never should have kind of been born to begin with. It was a flawed agreement. It was very unclear on kind of the stipulations for each side. Both the Iranians and the Americans really interpreted it differently, and it's all over what? It's all over the Strait of Hormuz, who has control over this. And so I do think you're going to see kind of this continued, maybe slow climbing of an escalatory ladder, but with the stipulation that neither side really wants to go back to armed conflict. And the amazing part about this is that this is exactly what the administration doesn't want to have happen because, the price of oil can go up, gas prices can then rise, midterms are coming up. So this is kind of a nightmare scenario. I don't see any way out of it right now. And the Iranians do seem to be somewhat in control over this. And so I think, again, just call this a hot piece.
And so far, as you just noted, we have seen this pattern of renewed attacks every few days. Is it possible for the U.S. to get to a better negotiating position strictly by using these air attacks? Or are we getting back to this conversation that we were at a few months ago of discussions to potentially put boots on the ground? Is that what is necessary here?
Right. And so, I'm not sitting at Central Command. I'm not sure exactly what Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, is telling President Trump. But that is a really good question, is what kind of military options are there to actually force the Iranians to capitulate a little bit? That's the big question. Do these strikes that we saw, I think, over almost 200 targets over the last 48 hours, are they going to be enough to really push the Iranians? Now, you did see strikes around the Strait of Hormuz, so you can see kind of the theory behind that, but there were also some infrastructure strikes. And so is the U.S. kind of inching back towards actually hitting Iran where it would hurt them more? And then the overall question, Jackie, which you raised, in order for there to be real progress on this, would this actually necessitate troops on the ground, boots on the ground, months before a midterm election? And so we're in this box again. There's no real actual solution out there. I wish I could say there was kind of a magic, toy to put in front, and this would be the thing that would solve the problem. I don't think that's the case. And so, again, we're in this rather odd period of what we call a hot piece with really no resolution to be found.
We're also learning that President Trump spoke over the phone yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And according to Netanyahu's office, him and the president discussed American military actions in the Gulf region amid the renewed fighting with Iran. Prime Minister also warned Trump that against approving an F-35 fighter jet deal with Turkey. Turkey and Israel have obviously long had tense relations, and Netanyahu argued that the sale of the F-35s to Turkey could endanger Israel. And now the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Israel shared new intelligence with the United States that said it showed that Iran was considering a new plan to assassinate President Trump. That's according to people familiar with the matter. Iran has for years vowed to retaliate against Trump for the drone strike that killed top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani back in 2020. When asked for comment by the Journal, the White House referred the paper to the president's remarks from this week's NATO summit, alluding to threats on his life. Let's take a listen.
Leaders, they want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw things this morning. I'm on every single one of their lists. And so far, I guess I've been a little bit lucky, but that maybe doesn't last very long because that's the way it goes.
Mark, I want to get your reaction to that reporting from the Wall Street Journal and the timing of it all. I mean, do you think that Israel coming forward now with it could be in part to influence the president's thinking about the war? We've obviously seen their relationship going through a bit of a rocky period. I think that's probably an understatement.
Right. So this is fascinating. You know, look, I worked with the Israelis for many years when I was a CIA officer. It's an outstanding service. They do provide us with counterterrorism information. And just in general, there's no reason to think that they would actually kind of embellish or make something up because that would be kind of foundational. If, for example, we learned that they were actually doing so, it would be pretty damaging. But the problem with this is that there's going to be a lot of skeptics because the U.S.-Israeli relationship is going through a rocky state, the Trump-Bibi relationship as well. And so what better way for the Israelis to gain favor with Trump by providing this information and get them back to where they would like to see kinetic activity? I mean, the Israelis want to see, there's no doubt, would want to see the U.S. resume military activity against Iran and perhaps allow the Israelis to do as well. This would allow them to do it. So while this could be legitimate information, and it hasn't been corroborated, and I think U.S. intelligence officials said that, there's going to be a lot of skeptics there. So we're caught in this situation in which I'm not sure anyone's actually going to believe this or not. It did seem to have an effect, by the way, because they did do the swap of Air Force One. You know, the new Qatari jet was not used in the flight out of Turkey for obvious security reasons. And so, you know, let's see where this goes. And I'm sure the press is going to be following this to see if actually they can corroborate this information about a potential threat.
And just quickly, I want to circle back to the top of our show where we showed that clip of Brian Kilmeade offering some very pointed suggestions about the status of negotiations and that the president should swap out Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, who have been leading these technical talks that I'm told are continuing. I've also been told that J.D. Vance is still a part of those conversations. But what's your reaction to that and the fact that some of the president's top allies are now publicly calling for the president to make a change in the strategy that he's been employing?
So, Jackie, I thought I was watching an MS Now hit. I thought I was watching myself on MS Now because we have said exactly that. Look, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are not suitable to be acting as envoys. Everything they've touched, the Gaza peace plan, which turned out to be nothing other than a ceasefire agreement, all their efforts with the Russians and Ukraine have gone for naught, and now this MOU. And so Brian Kilmeade is actually echoing not only what a lot of people perhaps on our channel talk about, but I think you also hear that quietly amongst Republican circles as well. Now, is the president going to listen? You know, maybe not. He trusts Witkoff and Kushner kind of implicitly, but the criticism coming on Fox News and from Kilmeade is notable. And again, you hear that kind of quietly behind the scenes because they're not actually getting results.
Do you think it's been a choice that Marco Rubio hasn't been as engaged in these conversations, or has he been edged out by them?
I think Rubio is looking at 28. I don't think Rubio was supportive of this necessarily, this war. And it seems like a choice. And plus, you know, what is his grand strategy? Rubio, you know, the thing that he wants more than anything else is U.S. activity on Cuba. And I think that's what his focus is on.